Okay. Good morning, everybody. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this 56th ISOCARP World Planning Congress, and at the same time to the first ever virtual Congress. And as you know, our Congress is taking place in the completely unprecedented times and unprecedented circumstances, I would say. We are also using the new technologies for that. So just at the very beginning, before we start and before we officially welcome our colleagues representing different partners and institutions, please observe a couple of the informations regarding how we shall proceed. First of all, please make sure to mute your phones so we don't get any additional calls on the way. Please stay muted all the time if you do not intend to speak at the particular moment. And also, please remember that once you are speaking or once you are taking the floor, please turn on your camera. This is pretty important, as you would like to actually see you. Also, please remember we have additional features for our Congress, which is a chat room, and it's possible for each and every one of you to chat with any participant directly or with all the Congress set of the Congress delegates at the same time. But please note that the chat is something separate from the main track. We will comment only on these parts which seem to be of utmost importance for the running of the entire event. So once again, good morning and welcome to each and every one of you. Although I would also say good afternoon and good evening to some of you, because we are in the very different time zones. And let me introduce my team. First of all, I'm very happy to say that this time we have the co-general rapporteur, Professor Magidimisha from Durban, from South Africa. I guess many of you do know her from the Durban Congress, but also we have the entire team, the entire Congress team, which will be introduced a little bit later. Also, I have a great pleasure to introduce our partners, our main Congress partners. And this year we have UN Habitat and we have Urban Economy Forum. There will be welcome remarks later on in the course of the day, provided by the representatives of both organizations.
Warm greetings from South Africa in Durban. I would also like to welcome our sponsors and our section proponents, and of course all our endorsing partners. We are very glad to have all of you here, and we are looking forward to productive engagement, all of us.
But also let me welcome the key persons for organizing this Congress. First of all, let me welcome very warmly our ISOCARP president, Mr. Martin Dubbeling. Let me welcome our Secretary General, Mr. Frank Dont. Let me welcome each and every member of the Executive Committee and ISOCARP board. I don't want to name each and every one of you, but I'm very happy we have you all with us. But also, I have to say that it is a great pleasure to welcome our Congress Committee, and especially the people who have been working with us for all the time up to now, Ms. Nian Balamiento and Ms. Anna Klimczak. Both of you have been extremely dedicated to the organization of the Congress, and welcome each and every one of you.
We are also delighted to welcome Congress team, which has been very helpful throughout all our tracks. Some of them, they'll also play a significant role in our Congress, in our World Planning Day that we have in Durban, which had over 400 delegates from 55 countries and 33 presentations.
Mm-hmm. Well, this time we are meeting on the 8th of November, which is the World Town Planning Day. It's an interesting moment because it actually never happened. I think that we actually started the Congress actually on the World Town Planning Day. But I have to say that this virtual mode of our Congress also brings a completely different way of organizing our event. First of all, the Congress will not be limited to just a couple of days, but it will be stretched over the span of 4 months. So we are going to meet regularly up to February. And also, there will be 2 or 3 days per each session. And then within each of that, we will have a couple of hours for the plenary sessions and for the paper presentations.
In this month of November, we also have the Congress going on for the next 3 days, starting today, which is a World Planning Day, until the 10th of November. And we're hoping all of you will still join us in all the sessions.
Mm-hmm. And now we will discuss the program for our day 1. We'll just hear the highlights of that, what is in store for us for today.
Today's program's got 7 items. One being, of course, the introduction and greetings for the participants, which will be done by myself and Piotr. Welcoming participants, done by myself and Piotr, as already said. Opening address will be done by ISOCARP president. Opening remarks will be done by our main co-host, which is Urban Economy Forum and UN Habitat. The keynote address will be done by the president of Royal Town Planning Institute, and the panel discussion will be led by Professor Lorens. And of course, our closing remarks will be done by ISOCARP General Secretary, Mr. Frank de Haan.
Mm-hmm. Well, as you can see, we will have contributions from all our co-hosts. But also, before we start the proper session, I guess many of you know us very well. Some of you may know us too well, I would say. But still, I think we have an obligation to get self-introduced. So may I invite Professor Magidimisha to get self-introduced, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Piotr. I'm Hangwelani Magidimisha, Associate Professor at the University of Kwazulu-Natal. I'm an academic leader for planning and housing. I'm also a Sachi chair for inclusive cities. I've also been involved with the local organizing committee member for the 52nd Congress, ISOCARP Congress, which was held in Durban. Right now, I'm also a co-general rapporteur for the 56th Congress, ISOCARP.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much. My name is Piotr Lorens. I'm on the regular basis teaching at Gdańsk University of Technology in Poland, in Europe. But also I'm an active member of ISOCARP. For 6 years, I was serving as the Vice President for Young Planning Professionals. But also I'm quite active in research and consulting globally. So I guess we got self-introduced. And now let me refer to the opening address, and at this stage, let us listen to the short pre-recorded message from our president, Mr. Martin Dubbeling.
Your Excellencies, dear board members, dear members of ISOCARP, and dear delegates to the ISOCARP Congress, I welcome you to the 56th ISOCARP World Planning Congress, our first ever fully virtual Congress. ISOCARP is a worldwide, member-led network association of urban and regional planners, jointly working under the motto, Knowledge for Better Cities. We arrange a wide array of activities for and with our members, such as publications like the Wonderful Review, workshops, awards and training programs. At this Congress, on the topic of post-oil city, planning for urban green deals, we have the opportunity to exchange ideas and visions, encourage each other and build coalitions amongst city and regional planners, placemakers, academia, practitioners and consultants. Urban green deals are essential for cities. Nationwide energy infrastructures based on sustainable energy will change the way we use, build, plan and design our landscapes and cities. Wind parks, solar fields and electric and thermal storage facilities will have an impact on land use in and around cities. Regional planners landscape architects and urban designers play a crucial role in leading the way towards revisioning and recreating our landscapes and cities. More than ever before, we now realize that making cities healthier places for living and working should be on the top of the agenda of every government, mayor, city planner and developer. Years ago, Professor Sam van Emden, the founding father and first president of ISOCARP between 1965 and 1975, already emphasized his opinion that city and regional planners are the doctors and the surgeons of cities. We, as urban medics, know how our patients should change their lifestyle, and if necessary, we also know where and how to operate to improve their well-being. We, as urban and regional planners, should stand up and take full responsibility in making and designing better and more healthier cities and public places. We live in exciting and troublesome times that require us to be resourceful, creative and agile. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the climate crisis, the health and the well-being of ourselves, our families and our communities are at stake. Because of this, our ideas, perceptions and priorities in designing and building better cities are shifting. As an urban planner and designer working on rebuilding the port city of Delfzijl here in Groningen, the most northern part of the Netherlands, we very much realize that this new reality requires unorthodox and innovative ways of cooperation and communication. Rebuilding the port and industrial city of Delfzijl is necessary. 3 kilometers below our feet here in Delfzijl is the largest field of natural fossil gas in Europe and one of the largest in the world. The extraction of natural gas induced thousands of small but very powerful earthquakes that have damaged thousands of houses, schools, cultural buildings and care facilities in this region. All these damaged houses and buildings need to be reinforced or completely rebuilt. You can imagine that this has an enormous emotional and long-lasting impact on our communities here in Delfzijl. Our mission here is to build Delfzijl back better and to make this city a prosperous, safe, resilient and livable post-gas city. For this effort, we respect and uphold 5 core values for our urban Green Deal: attractive, reliable, connected, innovative and community. ISOCARP congresses are first and foremost a meeting place of our members, all planning professionals working in academia, for cities and regions, as well as for local and international consultancies and institutions. The 56th ISOCARP World Planning Congress aims to become an event where planners, developers, politicians, NGOs meet and discuss the future of urban green deals for post-oil cities. In the past years, we had memorable and exciting congresses in Rotterdam in the Netherlands, Durban in South Africa, Portland in Oregon, USA, Bude in the Arctic Circle of Norway, and last year in the metropolis of Jakarta in Indonesia. In the past decade, we covered progressive and forward-looking topics from low-carbon cities, cities and water, reinvent planning, smart communities, cool planning, and beyond the metropolis. At our annual World Planning Congresses, ISOCARP members, partners and Congress delegates present their projects, their cases and their research of the past year and participate in special sessions, workshops and paper presentations. And most importantly, members of our society come together at our annual general meeting this year, scheduled on Tuesday, the 10th of November. In my experience, planners have become members of ISOCARP because they feel the urgency to share their knowledge and experiences with others, and because they want to learn from planners from other cities and regions. We are a global network and a meeting place for those planners. Once we mobilize our network, we are a global community of practice, and we provide added value to our members and to the cities, communities, universities and companies they and you work for. Despite all of this year's disruptions, ISOCARP remains a vibrant organization. New members are joining, membership renewal is strong, registrations to our first virtual World Planning Congress are very promising. And we have received a stunning number of candidate nominations for the upcoming board elections. In this way, ISOCARP remains a worldwide members-led network organization of urban and regional planners. The ISOCARP Society is supported by the ISOCARP Institute, which provides members the opportunity to share their expertise and participate in projects for the ISOCARP Institute research, ISOCARP Institute practice like UPATS and YPP, ISOCARP Institute Academy projects for training, capacity buildings and webinars. This year, we celebrate the 56th edition of ISOCARP's annual World Planning Congress. It's the living proof of the vitality and inclusiveness of our global network, of everyone who is involved in making better cities and making existing cities better. Thank you very much for joining ISOCARP. Thank you very much for sending in your interesting papers and your contributions to this Congress. Thank you very much for registering to our Congress. And my appreciation goes out to our staff at the Secretariat and the Institute. We have an exciting virtual event ahead of us. I'm very, very sorry that we cannot host this Congress in Doha, Qatar as planned. Nevertheless, I'm convinced that this will be a very successful, elevating and meaningful Congress that will contribute to knowledge for better cities and to urban green deals. I very much look forward to interacting with you in the next days, weeks and months.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Martin, for your contribution. Oh.
Thank you very much, Martin, for your contribution. We will now, our next item will be introducing our Congress team.
And well, let me at first, before we start, say that our Congress team is coming from the very different backgrounds. We have representatives of many different nationalities as well as professions. So we are all planners, but different types of planners, I would say. And it will be our great pleasure to get each and every one of you on stage for a couple of seconds. We don't have more time, unfortunately, but this is what we are planning for. And I would like to invite each and every one of the Congress team members to get self-introduced, including your name, and also including last 1 or 2 sentences regarding your personal profile.
For first track, which is entitled Understanding the Urban Metabolism, was led by 2 esteemed colleagues, Mindong and Matej. I will request them to introduce themselves, please, on that particular order.
Hello, everyone. I'm not sure if Jackie is with us, so I will start. I'm Matej Niksic. I'm from Ljubljana, Slovenia, and I'm from the Urban Planning Institute of the Republic of Slovenia, where we stand for excellent research to backbone the decision-making in providing better cities, not only for us as human beings, but also for the nature and environment in general. And I'm very glad that I will co-chair track 1, which will address the understanding of urban metabolism with my colleague Mindong. And I ask Jackie to introduce himself as well. Jackie, are you with us?
Oh,
okay. I don't think he's here.
Okay, so,
so we'll move to our track 2. We'll move to our track 2, which is named Ensuring the Economic Diversity and Resilience. It was led by 2 colleagues, Lorraine and Hanna. Please introduce yourself in that particular order.
Morning. My name is Lorraine Gonzales. I am a planner with the Portland metro area, a county called Clackamas County. I've been with ISOCARP for 8 years. I have been attending a number of the congresses, and I am thrilled to be part of this one, as well as I have in the past participated on Congress teams and 2 other congresses. So thank you for having me once again.
Hello everyone, I'm Hanna Obracht-Prondzynska. I'm assistant professor at the Gdańsk University of Technology in Poland. My work is related to the use of big data in planning practice. I'm an active member of ISOCARP for a few years now, and this year I have a pleasure to co-chair track 2, which is scheduled for December, and we really hope that you will join our sessions.
Okay, then we have track 3, Planning for Urban Connectivity. This is co-chaired by Serin Geambazu and Alexander Antonov. So shall we start with Serin?
Yes. Greetings, everyone. I'm Serin Geambazu from Romania. I am lecturing at Ion Mincu University in Bucharest. Project manager on Interreg EU projects at Urba Sofia, and now co-rapporteur for track 3, Planning for Urban Connectivity. I've been with ISOCARP for 5 years by now, several times OIPP, and I strongly recommend this program. I stand for taking a leadership role as urban planner because capturing people's imagination is an act of leadership, and it's quite necessary in designing our cities. Thank you.
Thank you. And next is Alex.
I'm Alexander Antonov from Moscow, Russia. I'm an ISOCARP member for 11 years. I'm working in the Planning Institute in Moscow. We deal with general plans, regional plans, and I have some work for federal agency. So I'm moderator of track 3, and I stand for responsible planning. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now the track number 4 is about safeguarding the urban resilience, and we have 2 colleagues co-chairing that, Elizabeth and Pedro. Elizabeth, please.
Morning, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Reynolds. I'm an Australian urban planner, currently based in London, previously lived in Abu Dhabi. Really looking forward to helping co-chair a session on safeguarding the urban resilience. It's a really important topic at the moment. And I'll be doing that alongside my colleague, Pedro Ressano Garcia, who is an architectural practitioner and academic for Portugal, currently based in Canada. Thanks very much. Look forward to it.
Thank you so much. Is Pedro with us? Just to double check.
He's not this morning, no.
It's not, I know, it's the middle of the night in Canada, right?
It's 4 a.m. there now, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Track 5, focusing on heritage and smart culture, was led by 3 colleagues, Laura, Eric, and Stefan. Unfortunately, Stefan has to step down due to personal reasons. Now I will request our colleagues, Laura and Eric, to introduce themselves on that particular order.
Hello, everyone. I'm Laura Verdelli. I am Italian, but I currently live and work in France. I am a lecturer and a researcher in the University of Tours. I'll co-chair the track number 5, focusing heritage and smart culture. And I am particularly interested in the place that each type of heritage, natural, cultural, tangible, and intangible, as in the contemporary society, and in the contribution that heritage can give to the sustainable development and the sustainable development redefinition. Thank you very much.
I am Eric Huybrechts, based in Paris. I work for the Regional Planning Agency of Paris region. And so I am an architect and urban regional planner. And I also am very interested by this track 5 to manage it because I am also a member of ICOMOF. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The track 6 will be creating health and inclusive urban environment. It was led by 2 colleagues, Rajendra and Elizabeth. Kindly introduce yourself.
Hi, very good morning to all of you. I'm Rajendra Kumar, an architect and urban designer from New Delhi, India. I'm director of the School of Architecture, Noida International University. I have been a member of ISOCARP for last couple of years. I have also participated for YPP program in Russia and also MSRL program in Gdansk University. I'm co-chairing the track 6 session, Healthy and Inclusive Urban Environment, with my colleague Elizabeth Belpar from Switzerland. Our track has a very good, interesting papers, and I hope that we will have a very good topic and recommendations after the session day after tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Hello, good morning to everyone. My name is Elizabeth Belpar. I am from Belgium, and after living and working in many parts and cities of the world, I ended up and I'm based in the Geneva area. For the time being, I'm for ISOCARP involved in co-created the community of health, urban health, involved in the mental research student lab, and also contributed to the national or the global state of national urban planning. And I'm passionate about our track because it's about health for people and planet, and about inclusiveness. So how we can create more equitable places and outcomes while we can build on the wonderful diversity in our global village. Thank you.
Well, we have track 7, Shaping Livable Places. This is being co-chaired by Olga Chepelianskaya and Pedro Ortiz. Olga, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Olga Chepelianskaya. I am of French and Russian background and based in New Delhi, India. I founded a consultancy and think tank, Unicity, in which we stand for uniqueness in cities of the global south that leads to sustainability. I'm excited to chair the track Shaping Livable Places, which is a critical topic today on how do we reposition public places, how do we find ourselves in them in the new paradigm. We've received an overwhelming interest with proposals and papers, and I really look forward to sharing this. The track will take place in January and February.
Thank you so much, Pedro. Is Pedro with us? I know it's the middle of the night in Washington, but just wondering whether Pedro joined us. No, obviously not. Okay, so he will be joining us later on. We have got a special track on the future of hot cities, which is chaired by Francois and Nassim Iran-Manesh. So Francois, could you please present yourself?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Francois Vane. I'm urban planner based in Singapore. I'm French, and I have the pleasure to co-lead the special track, The Future of Hot City, with Mrs. Nassim Iran-Manesh from Iran, from Tehran. And Similarly to the other track, we receive a lot of very interesting paper, very cross-disciplinary that will tackle the future of all cities in this post-oil context. So Nassim, I give you the statement.
Okay, and Nassim, are you with us? Do we have Nassim? Well, I'm afraid we had some technical problems with getting to Nassim. Sorry about that. Well, okay, sorry, Nassim, we cannot hear you. We cannot hear you this time.
I am Nassim Iramanish from Iran.
Okay.
And I am a professor hello everyone. I'm Nassim Iramanish.
Okay, I'm sorry, Nassim, but we cannot hear you. Well, thank you very much for joining us. I hope there will be better connection and better option.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
No, we cannot. We can just, now it's better. Now it's better. Now it's better, please.
No. Sorry. Yeah. But can you hear me? Can you hear?
Yes, but we have to go on, please. Okay, I think we cannot hear Nassim. Sorry about that. But well, once again, welcome everyone to the Congress team, and I'm more than sure that this fantastic team will deliver a great Congress. Thank you very much, guys, for being with us all the time.
Thank you very much, colleagues, for all your introduction and the hard work done this far. Now we can move to our next item, which is opening remarks from one of our co-hosts, Urban Economy Forum, will be led by Reza Pourvaziry. He's the president of Urban Economy Forum, and his bio is available online, so I won't be able to give more details. Over to you, President of Urban Economy Forum.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Good afternoon. I'm trying to share the screen. I'm not sure. Can you? Okay, let's.
Yes, it's perfectly okay. Please continue.
Yeah. Let's try. Give me a second. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. Please.
Okay. Okay. Hello, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guest, President of ISOCARP, Mr. Martin Dubbeling, and Secretary General of ISOCARP, my friend, Frank Dohut. It's my pleasure to participate in the 56th Annual World Planning Congress of ISOCARP. This Congress is so important for Urban Economy Forum to collaborate in such a significant global gathering. I wish the best for attendees throughout this Congress as you work to create new values and sustainable and practical approach for cities and regions around the world. While countries appear to be separated by their borders, the pandemic does not recognize this. The serious challenge of COVID-19 has shown us there is no such things as a separation from country to country. It has shown that the efforts to separate ourselves is not the correct concept. We are now much closer to each other, even more than our expectations. We understand that if we are focused to change our behavior, we are able to do this. Of course, it has caused pain and reflection on society, but it's possible. Over the course of the last 2 decades and even over the last half a century, intellectual researchers and academics have asked government to pay attention to the environment and resources. They alarmed the world about overconsumption. On the other hand, strong voices of capitalism have encouraged society to follow the status quo and continue our course, waste our resources, and gamble on the future of our planet. The campaign of capitalism put all their efforts to make this a game and convince politicians that more developed equal more jobs, a crucial component of our society. At the same time, capitalism tried to hide the harmful impact of its non-sustainable development through their media. They spend lots of their dirty money to create a reasonable fact on why we must continue our course in the interest of society. We must create a sustainable plan for cities on our unique planet. As the urban planners of the world gather here, we should emphasize the important role that urban planners have to create sustainable urbanism. It's clear that we are unable to change everything in one day, but we need to create progressive dialogue in a practical way using the tools of contemporary world with a specific focus on the role of media. We also need to use creativity, knowledge, and innovation to provide some solutions for the future of urbanism. We need to understand what should be done and how. We need to focus on creating pilot projects in different scale and different contexts. We must come together to exchange our practices. We need to see what the challenges and opportunities are at a real scale as we try to bridge the gap between theory to practice. We need to create thousands of urban labs in different cities and countries and on different subjects and contexts based on a variety of urban identity. More than ever, we need to exchange our practices, and city leaders must be involved in this process. Creating partnership with the private sector and financial institution is also imperative to modify the business model to make common benefits and added values for cities and societies. We should focus on urban resources and create this dialogue in a practical approach to engage with different economic industries. It's important to create a usable product that generating city prosperity. Today, our urban projects should have multidimensional phases, including social, economy, cultural, political, and environmental. This is the complex nature of cities that we can see in each individual urban project. Urban Economy Forum aims to create dialogue about urban transformation with a specific focus on the concept of urban values and urban economy. We believe that to have sustainable urbanism, we need to provide sustainable urban resources. Based on the transformation of technology, we should expect a fundamental change for the future of urbanism. Energy, for example, is a main core of society and has a key role in this narrative. Importantly, the progress of technology will hopefully provide sustainable solutions for green energy and efficiency to create better quality of life with less consumption. For the process of this transformation, we need an exact urban database plan to evaluate the situation, to understand values, measure dimensions, finding priorities and actions, and have a clear prediction. In In the close future, we will provide an IT urban data platform to modernize efficient decisions based on sustainable urban resources. In our endeavor toward this, Urban Economy Forum, in collaboration with UN Habitat and Government of Canada, will establish the Region Park World Urban Pavilion by UN Habitat as a global knowledge exchange hub to rethink about all the dimensions of urbanism. Based on collaboration with ISOCARP, we hope to develop the program of the pavilion in the close collaboration with urban and regional planners throughout the world. Join us in this initiative. We will launch on November 12th jointly with Government of Canada and Habitat. I hope to have a best practical result for this annual Congress, and we should involve society more through the channel of media to inform on the new challenges and opportunities for urban issues. We should try to involve them to make a better future for the world. There is no choice unless we collaborate together and create an alternative voice in the globe that is based on reality of the current situation to inform society in a transparent manner. We must change together. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Reza, for your opening remarks. And now let me announce the presentation of Madam Maimunah Mohd Sharif, Under Secretary General and Executive Director of UN Habitat. Madam Maimunah will deliver the pre-recorded video.
Honorable Mayors, distinguished delegates, friends, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning, afternoon and evening to all of you. I am pleased to be here with you today on the occasions of the 56th International Society of City and Regional Planners, ISOCARP, World Planning Congress. I would like to thank the efforts of ISOCARP for organizing this event and for inviting UN Habitat to co-host. As an urban planner, it is indeed an honor to be addressing my peers, especially in these extraordinary times. As you know, UN Habitat and ISOCARP have been collaborating for a decade now. We signed our MOU in 2010, and in that period, ISOCARP provided expertise and support to projects in Haiti, Zanzibar, and China, among others. Since then, UN Habitat have been collaborated in all ISOCARP World Congresses and published in the Planning Review Journal. We also organized the groundbreaking 2018 Placemaking Week in China. That event strengthened our joint partnership with the city of Wuhan that continues to this day. We are now renewing this wide-ranging and constructive partnership to further the role of good urban and territorial planning in support of the United Nations Decade of Action. The COVID-19 pandemic has shaken our world. Many countries are waking up to the human, economic, and environmental costs of the lockdown. UN Habitat Strategic Plan 2020 to 2023 had its key focus on urban poverty and the need to deal systematically with inequalities. In that case of informal settlements, we need planners to help move beyond mere slum upgrading into slum transformation. Honorable Mayors, as we focus on recovery and building back better, we need to build back greener as well. This is a commitment we have all made at the 75th United Nations anniversary. Cities are where the solutions will be found, and we need to lead the way in building green urban environment. I am reminded of my first job as an urban planner in Penang. the first premise of good planning is to have your ear to the ground. We need to ensure that we align spatial and economic planning with strong participation of local communities. Otherwise, the plans we develop will collect dust, or worse, ruin the communities we are serving. The way we plan and build our cities defines not only the quality of our living spaces and transport, but also the air we breathe, the water we drink, and our access to nutritious food, education, healthcare services, and employment. Ladies and gentlemen, the answer lies in an integrated urban planning. It is now commonplace to consider environmental, social, health, and well-being as key determinants when planning cities. This aligns with our fundamental and shared understanding that sustainable urban development must preserve a people-centered approach. UN Habitat is supporting this approach. We did Future Cities program in 10 countries and 19 cities. This includes our guidance on urban regeneration, mobility and data management, and our work on planning for crisis context. Our participatory planning approach has been deployed in countries from West Africa to Mexico, Haiti to Indonesia. Our guidance on urban and territorial planning has been implemented in many member states who have found the approach useful. Our work on the promotion of the role of public spaces for community cohesion, service delivery, and economic development has huge traction in this respect. A lot more can be done by joining forces with Planners Association. As we are all still confronted in many parts of the world with the COVID-19 pandemic, the climate emergency must remain firmly on our agenda. On one side, the climate emergency connects and exacerbates the health and economic crisis brought about by the pandemic. On the other side, a path of recovery in collision with environmental quality and sustainability will be ineffective in protecting us over the longer period. This discussion is extremely important and timely. We continue to work closely with our sister agency UNEP and other UN agencies on early warning systems in Fiji, waste management in Kenya, Ethiopia, China, and building technologies in Pakistan and Myanmar, low emission development strategies in Rwanda, city resilient action planning in Sri Lanka, and sustainable urban pathway in Ecuador and India. Through planning at different scales, working across multiple sectors and disciplines, planners can support Green New Deals, which work with nature, leverage local economic asset, optimize density, and bring infrastructure where they are most needed, addressing complex demands. As UN Habitat, we are extremely keen for planners to speak up in public debate more, and we are equally keen that they contribute to improve policies, planning systems, planning instruments, and the way our cities are designed. Friends and colleagues, let me have your innovative ideas of how to successfully demonstrate integrated planning with a right-based approach. How can we help world leaders to fulfill their pledge to eliminate poverty, reach those furthest behind, and achieve gender equality? What are the new ways of thinking around planning that will allow us to deliver adequate, safe, and affordable housing and basic services for all? Thank you for being here, and I look forward to the results of this important discussion on urban green deals to build back better and greener. Thank you.
Thank you very much for thought-provoking speech, which forces us to think out of the box as urban planners, architects. We'll now move to the next item, which is a keynote presentation.
Well, and our keynote speaker today is Ms. Humans, who is the president of the Royal Town Planning Institute. Her full bio, as well as the full bios of all the other speakers, are on our website. So, Sue, floor is yours, and welcome to our Congress.
Thank you very much, and thank you for those kind words of introduction. Right, I'm just struggling now to try and share my screen. Hopefully it will work. So if you can bear with me just one moment. I think we're there. So thank you very much again for those kind words of introduction. And it is a real honour to give the keynote address at the opening of the 56th International Society of City and Regional Planners World Planning Congress. This year, under the theme of the Congress is Post-Oil City, Planning for Urban Green Deals, focusing on how planning can contribute to managing global urbanisation as we strive to phase out fossil fuels from most sectors of our economies and deliver fair and sustainable outcomes for all. However, before I delve into that, I want to say that I'm particularly excited to be here today, 8th of November, as this is World Town Planning Day. Last year marked the 70th anniversary of World Town Planning Day, where the focus of the celebrations was on the achievements of 7 decades of planning globally and committing ourselves to at least 70 more years of serving the public interest through planning everywhere. And as planners, we have an obligation to future generations to ensure that we find and put in place resilient new pathways to support our shared aims of global sustainable development. With this in mind, and since both ISOCARP and the Royal Town Planning Institute are members of the Global Planners Network, a global organisation gathering over 100,000 professional planners worldwide, I would like to share with you a joint statement issued by the Global Planners Network to mark World Town Planning Day. And I will read it. Every person and community in the world today is impacted by a deepening climate and biodiversity crisis. If we do not dramatically accelerate climate action, the irreversible degradation of much of the natural world and the impact on communities and economies globally are unparalleled catastrophes in the making. This backdrop has been gravely compounded by the current health, economic and social crises since the outbreak of the COVID-19 global pandemic. Planning can and will help us to respond to our changing economies and lifestyles. It will support communities to adapt, thrive, and build resilience for a truly sustainable future. Urban and territorial planning serves to balance the competing demands and needs of all people and of the built and natural environment. That is why planning is central to humanity's efforts to safeguard our land, homes, economies, and natural habitats, so that future generations might enjoy the same benefits as the present ones, so that we may confidently advance towards global, inclusive, fair and sustainable development, as outlined by the new urban agenda and the more holistic sustainable development goals. Following our Abu Dhabi Declaration in February 2020, we assert that there can be no sustainable urbanization without, no sustainable development without sustainable urbanization, and no sustainable urbanization without effective planning. Political support, financial backing, and human capacity is required for effective planning. Today, on the 71st anniversary of World Town Planning Day, and with less than a year to go to the COP26 summit in Glasgow, we look forward to global planners coming together to discuss our collective response for bold national climate ambitions and effective and localized climate action. The COVID-19 global pandemic has wreaked devastating impacts around the world. However, it has also shone a light on potential pathways towards sustainable development. We must not waste this opportunity of a green, clean, inclusive recovery from this global pandemic. This year, World Town Planning Day marks the end of the first year of the Decade of Action. We must continue to provide leadership to our communities and empower them to engage in climate action and planning for the world we need and can sustain. We also need to be looking out for and supporting each other as the global pandemic has taken a toll on the mental health of our colleagues and communities. Please join me in celebrating the 71st World Town Planning Day today. As the Global Planners Network statement mentions, 2020 marks the start of the UN Decade of Action to translate commitments into real change and collectively focus on making the Sustainable Development Goals a tangible reality by 2020. This means leaving no one behind as we achieve a world we can sustain and thrive in. The world that we live in today is in so many ways very different to the one that we were experiencing only 12 months ago at the time of the 55th ISOCARP conference. Whilst global challenges such as climate change have not gone away, our focus during 2020 has been on the response to the immediate threat of the COVID-19 pandemic. COVID-19 has impacted on everyone. It has been an anxious time. Many lives have been lost, many families and businesses have been affected. But across the world, communities have shown themselves to be innovative, adaptable, and resilient. Experiences of the pandemic have been very different, with many of those differences being a product of the place where people are living. The pandemic has been a story of inequality. Its impacts have not been equally felt, with those living in our more disadvantaged areas suffering disproportionately. As the origin of the COVID-19 pandemic is being linked to ecosystem degradation and the unsustainable exploitation of the natural world, there is a palpable urgency to act in order to avoid potential worse threats to come. The pandemic seems to have put more obstacles in the way, with a spike in public spending globally and now a slump in the world economy. The most vulnerable are likely to bear the highest costs of this. However, it has also made clear that we can and we must rapidly overhaul our cities and how they and our societies and our economies work. And this is why planners, as members of the global civil society, need to contribute to an open and democratic discussion so that increased public spending can not just be economically sustainable, but advance social and environmental sustainability on the ground. The UN Habitat's Urban October campaign 2020 focused on housing as a human right, highlighting how overcrowded, unsafe and unhealthy housing, lacking access to services and infrastructure, is a key determinant of poor development outcomes. And as we've all seen all too clearly in 2020, is linked to higher COVID-19 contagion rates. Getting housing right globally can only be done through better planning. It is not just a moral imperative, but also a matter of global safety and security, including financial security. We need to provide new streams of funding for these investments to happen, to cities and national governments willing to address their national urban questions. The very real threat of climate change has not gone away, nor has the crisis in housing supply or the threat to biodiversity. The difference between the COVID-19 crisis and the other crises that is that we have been given ample notice of their arrival. We have an opportunity to address these before they reach a tipping point. And like COVID-19, climate change represents a political challenge as much as a scientific or a technical one. And planners must consider not only how and why levels of vulnerability to climate change vary, but how their policies benefit or disadvantage particular groups. Research conducted by the United Cities and Local Governments shows that when funded and granted the appropriate devolved powers, local authorities can show real leadership. They can increase revenue and afford to make social and infrastructure investments. Planning can play a key role in that by unlocking investments in land whilst ensuring that they are sustainable and their fruits are fairly shared. Sometimes this happens against all odds in cities with great challenges, such as in Hargeisa in Somalia, where UN Habitat supported capacity building for planning in the local authority. Post-oil, post-COVID cities must address the large and widening gaps in the health and economic well-being and level up life experiences, not just within their boundaries, but also within society at large. We need to show future generations that we have learned from our experiences and that we were bold enough and brave enough to be able to plan for the world that both we and they need. They will not forgive us if we do not take this opportunity. The small island and developing state of the Seychelles is an interesting example of this. In the RTPI published research, A Future for Planning, we highlighted how this country, considered amongst the most vulnerable to climate threats, successfully managed to access new funding for sustainable development. As part of renegotiating its national debt with foreign creditors, the government secured that part of the relief on repayments would be invested in devising new land and marine strategies. They embarked on a participatory process to devise them, with the objective of ensuring sustainable growth and safety from climate change threats for investments, thus enabling better revenue collection to advance national sustainability objectives, whilst ensuring debt repayment. Funding planning at both a national and local level will be key to ensuring that the investments we need to overhaul our economies are effective, which is what this conference frames as urban green deals. In June 2020, the RTPI launched its campaign, #PlanTheWorldWeNeed. It describes how planning can support a sustainable, resilient, and inclusive recovery from COVID-19. It makes clear that failure to act now will defer costs to future generations and the most vulnerable, with the risks of climate and ecological breakdown to a weak economy becoming rapidly unmanageable in scale and complexity. Spatial planning has a central role to play in reducing emissions. It achieves this by setting ambitious policies and standards to guide development and infrastructure decisions, and by directing investment to place-based solutions which have the support of local communities and deliver multiple benefits. And as we progress towards a post-oil city where greener urban solutions reshape the built environment, planning must ensure that co-benefits are maximised and that the transition is just, leaving no one behind. The future that we have will be the future that we choose. For global planners and built environment professionals, the 11th Sustainable Development Goal, Sustainable Cities and Communities, with its linkages to the Paris Agreement, is the natural entry point to address this huge task. World governments and multilateral organizations are increasingly recognizing the contributions of uncontrolled urbanization to the feedback loops that are escalating climate change, causing a loss of biodiversity, increasing vulnerability to displacement, and many more challenges. Most of the UN agencies, including the World Food Programme, which has recently been awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, are addressing sustainability in cities as key to achieving sustainability everywhere and for everyone. Comprehensively planned land uses, infrastructure, housing and services present an obvious avenue to redress past mistakes across the environmental, economic and social dimensions of sustainable development. I find it particularly demonstrative that when UNICEF came up with 10 principles for achieving children's rights in global cities through planning, they identified investing in urban planning as the first of them. Yet in practice, urban and territorial planning does not get the attention it deserves and the finance it needs when it comes to devising practical solutions and effective policy for global sustainable development. We know from research conducted by the Commonwealth Built Environment Professions that the number of planners in rapidly urbanizing and vulnerable countries is so low that there can be one professional planner for every 500,000 people or more. And this often happens in places that need to invest hugely in land policy in order to save millions of livelihoods and lives from the effect of climate change. According to the Cities Alliance, in many sub-Saharan African countries, planning departments are amongst the least resource services across local government. In this decade, UN Decade of Action, we need to focus on addressing the glaring funding gap and the capacity in local governments in practical ways. It would be naive to pretend that we can rise above structural constraints using our strengths alone. Whilst the pandemic has reinforced the legitimacy of public investment in health and social care, this needs to be extended to include the homes that we build and the places and spaces that we live in. If anything, the COVID-19 crisis has given added emphasis to the importance of investing in the future of our built and natural environment and being open to doing things differently. However, action will need to be collaborative, focused, and reflective if we hope to disrupt current unsustainable patterns of development. Many observers of the climate talks look at cities as the most viable frontier for rapid and effective climate action. Any finance programme, national or international, hoping to keep global temperatures well below 1.5 degrees cannot overlook the power of cities in both shaping the debate and addressing the issues on the ground. In the UK, local authorities declaring a climate emergency have been instrumental in convincing our national representatives to enshrine net zero by 2050 into law. By encompassing half the global population today and being projected to host about 64% of it by 2050, according to the UN, cities will be key in determining most of the world's travel, work, leisure, and consumption patterns. The scale of urban growth and of the web of economic relations spanning the world is so dense and rapid compared to anything we've seen in the past that it represents an entirely new challenge for planning. However, if the COVID-19 pandemic can be said to have had at least one positive effect on cities, then I think it may be having reconnected planners with the original mission of planning. For decades, the World Health Organization has been raising awareness that rapidly sprawling urban environments, unplanned urban environments, expose people to pollution, including contamination of water and air, and to physical hazards such as floods or incidents from unsafe infrastructure and power grids. We also recognize the important role of urban environments in social and economic well-being. As we heard at the 10th World Urban Forum in Abu Dhabi, which I had the pleasure of attending with ISOCARP colleagues earlier this year, cities exert a major influence on our choices and behaviours. They're hubs of culture and innovation that build on our collective shared experience and both our tangible and intangible heritage. These economic and cultural webs both make up cities and stretch far beyond their physical limits, enveloping most of the world. We are bound together by the challenges that face our cities, even when they may not be immediately apparent. Delivering sustainable development locally within cities is possibly the most important contribution of planning to post-oil net zero cities. Climate change is the result of excess resources we've consumed over the last decades, with oil possibly being the key one. It is affecting and will increasingly affect our health. But the time for talking has ended. Now it's the time for action. And this means that everyone must play a part in delivering net zero post-oil cities. In September 2020, the RTPI published its own climate action plan, which sets out how the RTPI aims to become the world's first net zero membership body by reducing its own net carbon emissions to zero by 2025. As housing and public transport are powerfully re-entering global development debates, we need to ensure that investments in these are planning-led and done sensitively, with the interests of the most vulnerable in mind. We need to look at how we treat the most vulnerable in our cities today, because this will be a good indicator of how well we will face up to and react to the challenges thrown our way by climate change in the coming years. For this reason, as UNICEF identified for children's rights, strengthening planning capacity and skills in cities is the single most useful thing we can advocate for as planners. Getting truly affordable, safe, healthy homes with clean energy in accessible locations connected to transport infrastructure and good quality public spaces will encourage people to choose public transport over active travel, over cars, whether they live in Nairobi, London, Buenos Aires. However, convincing national governments, the global climate finance community, and donors that this is a necessary and viable course of action will require evidence. The Royal Town Planning Institute's research measuring planning outcomes, launched this weekend, addresses how to quantify our contribution as planners to the sustainability of British cities and communities against the SDGs, as well as what public sector planners can do to address climate change. We hope that this can provide an inspiration to undertake a similar exercise in other contexts too. Nevertheless, this may not be sufficient. We will also need a wider conversation on the role of planning in the delivery of all the SDGs. And I believe it will require reviving the spirit of ingenuity that initiated some of the most visionary policies that we have come up with as planners. And this also means that we must attract the brightest and the best talent to our profession, and we must retain it. Planning must never be allowed to become the profession of the privileged few. We must find ways to draw from the widest and the most diverse talent pool that society can offer, nurturing and supporting those who may need it so that they can reach their potential for the good of us all. To advance the ambitious and bold visions that are necessary to achieve change, we also need to address the legitimacy of our profession. Planners need to multiply their efforts to ensure that planning is an independent and ethical profession everywhere, and advocate for democratic, inclusive and legitimate planning and land policy at the highest level. Which brings me to one of the most critical issues we need to address, and if we hope to continue to make our profession relevant for humanity in the decades ahead of us. It is something that I feel passionately about. It's equality, diversity and inclusivity, both within our profession and in our approach to community engagement. Get this right and we will be better placed to tackle the global challenges that we face. And I'm sure that you will agree with me when I say that I cannot think of many other professions where the decisions that we take, the policies that we put in place and the actions that follow have such a lasting influence on society, the environment and the quality of life for generations to come. But if I was asked whether the planning profession reflected the diversity of society, then the answer would be no. In terms of RTPI members, then women, minority ethnic and disabled planners are underrepresented. And this gets worse the higher up the profession you go. This matters, and it matters deeply. Lack of diversity at a decision-making level materially affects the environment. This is why, as RTPI champion for equality, diversity, and inclusivity, I launched an action plan earlier this year to help our institute tackle this challenge and ensure that our members are more representative of the societies that they serve. Seeing things from different perspectives leads to informed decisions. Decisions taken within an echo chamber tend to reflect the views of those within that chamber. We feel good when others validate our views. We feel smarter when people tell us what we already know. We all use spaces and places, but we all do it differently, and the way we do it changes throughout our lives. With complex issues such as those tackled by planners, it is simply not possible for one person or group of people from similar backgrounds to have all the relevant insights. We now need to take this one step further, not just our profession, but The principles of equality, diversity and inclusivity need to extend to our interactions with those who we are planning for. If our cities are to work for everyone and are to deliver SDG 11, then we must ensure that all voices are heard. All too often, we only hear from the vociferous, educated, dominant few, who, dare I say it, are often older males who drown out voices of the young, minority, and those with disabilities and disadvantaged. And as a result, we fail to capture different insights, thoughts, and perspectives, and appreciate how different groups may use the same places and spaces, and how their experiences of those spaces and places may be very different. And that's an example on the screen there of a recent publication by the RTPI on planning for dementia, which illustrates how differently people with the condition use their environment. An inclusive place is a safe space and one that works for everyone. As we saw at the World Urban Forum in February this year, there are some great examples of inclusive, diverse community engagement. But looking to the future, these must become the norm. It should not be, or say it should be the benchmark below which engagement activities should not fail to deliver. There is no excuse. As Werner Myers put it, diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance, to which I would add that we also need to recognise that some people may require more support than others in order to be able to dance. But when we're all on the dance floor, what a party that will be. So, just to conclude, in the words of the Global Planners Network Town Planning Day statement, planning is central to humanity's efforts to safeguard our land, home, economies, and natural habitats, so that future generations might enjoy the same benefits as the present one. So for now, I thank you so much for asking me to give this keynote speech. I really wish you all the best for many, many productive and engaging discussions in this 56th World Planning Congress, and happy 71st World Town Planning Day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sue, for your enlightening speech. I almost lost track of time. I was very hooked and listening. So we really appreciate. So we'll now move to our next item, which is a panel discussion. It will be led by Prof. Lorens. Over to you.
Oh, thank you so much, and thank you again, Sue, for your insights into what actually planning should be in the close future. We'll have a chance to talk a little bit about that during this panel discussion. So let me invite you to stay with us for a few more minutes, and let me introduce the first panel discussion during this Congress. And who will be the panelists? There will be Sue, of course. There will be Hope, but also we will have three colleagues, Mr. Rafael Putz from UN Habitat, Ananta Krishnan from Urban Economic Forum, and Martin Dubbeling, our ISOCARP president. So welcome each and every one of you. And without any further delay, let me actually state the first question, or actually the set of questions, which we would like to discuss during this first short panel. Basically, the idea here is to discuss what would be the relation between the urban Green Deals and the post-oil city and the post-COVID city. And I think this is basically the thing which we are all talking about right now, both in public and in private and in professional circles and in academia, and actually everywhere, I would say. So probably the first issue which I would like to start with is this question, how the post-oil city concept will change our city, but also how the post-COVID city, if there is something like the post-COVID city, how these two concepts will change. And since neither Raf nor Ananta was actually speaking yet, so let me invite first either Raf or Ananta to take the floor. So who would like to take the floor, Raf or Ananta? Please.
Would you like to join Raf first?
Yes, Ananta Krishna, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So we are supposed to be responding to all the three questions simultaneously. Yeah, I don't need to sort of wait for one after the other.
That's the first question right now, and then we see how it flows. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Piotr. I'm happy to join you all in celebrating the 71st World Urban Planning Day today. I would like to sort of go back to what the esteemed keynote speaker, Suman, said in her observation that the pandemic has been a story of inequality. Indeed, it's very real. Pandemic is producing different predicaments for one for the rich and one for the poor. For example, nearly 420,000 New York City residents fled the city in the midst of coronavirus. At the same time, we see over 10 million migrant workers from in India. They had to return to their home states because of the lockdown there. In addition, it has been pointed out that the plight of migrant workers and the exodus from Indian cities has important lessons for urban planning, also in the post-COVID situation. The first being the migrants mostly overlooked at the contempt as burdens of cities or blamed for the infrastructure and services. As a matter of fact, they are a crucial and productive force and contributors to the success of cities. For a vibrant city, planners need to be sensitive and responsive to the specific needs of migrant workers and people living in slums and informal settlements. As mentioned by the Executive Director of Human Habitat, according to many, a paradigm that has been conspicuous by its absence in planning practice. As Suman said, housing right globally can only be done through better planning. When it comes to COVID, in many countries, citizens are being advised not to use public transport and keep physical distancing. So the alternative for many is to drive private cars then. It contradicts with the idea of being environment friendly. Nevertheless, in many ways, the COVID can give an idea as to what a post-oil city will look like, if not well prepared. So COVID crisis response should be merged and marched with the responses that we need to other critical crises and issues facing to our people and planet. Hence, I would like to emphasize the term, even if it sounds a cliche, integrated strategic bottom-up planning, a planning of entities such as cities and regions are important in a unified way. And natural ecosystems are very key to our food security, without which cities will starve. As I mentioned by the Executive Director of Human Habitat, the preferred option is a transformative scenario which will be more evolutionary than revolutionary. It's hoped that the temporary COVID-driven drop in CO2 emissions, the pandemic could trigger permanent behavioral changes in the way people work, travel, trade, and they'll support a post-oil scenario. After the coronavirus has passed us, and when the oversupply of oil begins to ebb, then phasing out of petroleum products that are too expensive and achieving climate goals will require a re-engineering of the entire global industrial system of consumption and production patterns. Hence, if we need to run our business as unusual to eradicate poverty, homelessness, combat climate change, we should consider the example of transition towns now being found in over 40 countries. This is a way to establish small, resilient communities. They can be transition towns, eco towns, green cities, or whatever you want to call it. So thinking global and acting local is also gaining new meaning. What I mean is, as Suman said, relocalization as a pathway towards sustainability, which in the long run must become regeneration. Again, as mentioned by the keynote speaker, delivering sustainable development locally within cities is possibly the most important contribution of planning to post-oil net zero cities. So people and planners have the potential to shift power away from developers and towards the people historically excluded from the housing market. To achieve the goal of housing for all, we need local governments, financial institutions, and backing of enormous social movements. Planners also can become catalysts for resurrecting large-scale planning conceived on a freshly democratic basis. So to quote Niksic, the planner, after decades of being irrelevant, now has the opportunity to rise up to the crisis for one of the purpose that is what is necessary. The solution, therefore, is a popular movement from a non-market-based urban planning and decommodification of land and housing. Planners should also focus on power relations, practices of decision-making, and indigenous self-determination in local planning and environmental management. This means, as we heard, equality, diversity, inclusivity as important as planning itself. So it's important that we need to decolonize the boundaries between the planner and the planned, And in the context of indigenous property development, this is quite important in Latin America and North America and many other parts of the world. Conflict of climate change also, to the conflict of climate change, we need to see how post-conflict cities also can be responded in this regard. Then again, buildings are responsible for about 40% of the world's energy consumption and approximately 1/3 of greenhouse gases. So I would then recommend the Danish architect Bjarke Ingels' Vernacular 2, the concept that makes a case for learning from traditional architecture, combining local practices with climate responsive new technology, engineering, and aesthetics. Urban Economy Forum's World Urban Pavilion indeed hopes to showcase these practices in the years to come. As Frank Don says, pragmatic planners have to early detect cracks in the unsustainable systems caused by the pandemic shock, where we have the choice to either brush them away or to sow the seeds of change for a better world, big and small. So, in conclusion, I would say we can choose to change with the times, take advantage of new opportunities, and thereby change the times. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And now I would like to pass the floor to Raf. But just a reminder to everyone on the panel, please try to be brief. We need more like a discussion than statements. Raf, please, floor is yours.
Thank you, moderator, and happy to be here. On your first question regarding the change that we need to see for a post-oil city, I would like to highlight the following. I think to be successful in a post-oil city situation, we need a different way of working together between central and local government. I think for the moment, there's still too much competition or actions that are not fully coordinated, and the institutions need to be reconfigured to be more participatory and more collaborative, so that the efforts of different levels of government can go in the same direction. Then, in terms of the other changes that will need to take place is, as our executive director has said, learning to work better with nature, trying to leverage our existing densities and enhance urban densities better, optimizing the networks of infrastructure, and also trying to come to a new balance in terms of the economic sectors, so that there is better distribution and more territorial balances. I think these are critical factors that need to be achieved for a post-oil city scenario. However, as many speakers have said, there's one risk. There's a risk that this will lead to further marginalization, and currently the major gaps in infrastructure and housing and so on need to be addressed before we can even move to this scenario. Now, your second part of that question about what does this mean for the profession of planners, I'd like to briefly touch upon that. At the regional level, I think there needs to be an innovation of the regional planners. There is a lot of new skills they need to acquire to enhance their relevance if we want to work with blue-green networks and make cities more sustainable and more resilient in their regions. So this is, I think regional planning has to catch up and innovate itself. In terms of the urban planning, I think the focus on compact neighborhoods, walking distance needs to continue. There's many cities that have worked on that, especially in the last couple of years, but this is relatively easy compared to some of the more difficult issues related to the city scale, that is stopping the sprawl and also making housing more affordable. These, I think, are the more difficult challenges and tasks of planners. To conclude, a better understanding of urban systems will help planners to achieve this understanding, but also planners need to be more confident to be at the table, to make their perspective heard amongst policymakers. Too often they stand on the sidelines. They need to communicate better so that their priorities are taken into account in the green deals that are increasingly possible as we move forward. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, because we are a little bit short of time. So let me just ask all the three remaining panelists if there are any additional comments on this question. If any one of you would like to just say a couple of words. Sue, please.
Mine will be very, very quick. It's that different cities will have different challenges, and different people within those cities equally will have different needs and demands. So it's actually that inclusivity and looking forward is a key message from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Martin?
Yeah, I would like to emphasize that I think that we as planners should be active in change our profession from within. I think many planners do emphasize, do underestimate their role and their influence. We also have to realize that many cities don't even have an urban planner or urban designer employed. So a city without an urban planner is a hospital without a doctor, or a restaurant without a kitchen. And we should much more promote the profession of urban and regional planners. And I think we should constantly re-educate ourselves. That's why we have every 2 or 3 years, we have new topics, from livable cities to the sustainable development goals, the new urban agenda. It is all that try to refocus our own view on the profession, and I think that's very much important. We should be much more trend watchers, and we should be much more social influencers as well, especially in these modern times. But it requires a constant focus on reinventing our own profession.
Well, thank you so much. This brings us directly to the second question, which is there actually any conflict between the post-COVID realities and the post-old city? And as you may have heard from the very beginning of our conference today, is that actually we had a pre-Congress event in South Africa. So let me maybe invite Hope to share a couple of thoughts on that. Please be brief, 2-3 minutes maximum on that. Hope?
Thank you very much, Piotr. My take in terms of the COVID is that it's a very context-based. And if you're looking at it in South African case, it's a very sensitive issue, because people that barely do not have things like water and sanitation in some settings. And when such things happen, then you find that government is all over and trying to come up with some ways of accommodating them. I'm of the view that we can do much better as planners, way in advance, and try to prepare that, rather than just waiting for the predicament to happen. I will end there, Piotr.
Okay, and any other comments on the possible conflict between the post-COVID and post-oil city? Maybe we can come back to our partners, to Ananta and Raf, just short statements. Maybe Raf, you can start.
Yeah, thank you. No, I don't think there should be any conflict. Of course, we had a situation a year ago where there was a lot of movement and momentum to promote the climate action, especially from young people. And now this momentum has been, it's still there, but it has been totally overshadowed by COVID. But in terms of the actions, there is no conflict. If we talk about building back better, the same type of actions are can be used to rebuild the economy and support cities to regenerate after this COVID situation. So I don't see any conflict. It's just that the momentum, specific momentum for climate action, has to be picked up again as soon as possible. And actions have to be directed in the same line. Over.
Ananta,
I just wanted to say that, as I mentioned now, I took actually all the questions together in my first remark itself. What I just want to say is that COVID action sometimes can be seen as, taking the front seat and the climate action a back seat. The sense that the health sector has been so much, affected by the need for COVID response. Then we say that, what comes first? So the prioritizing resources very often in the COVID context becomes both health-oriented, community-oriented, where the climate action focuses on reducing the resources in itself. So there can be that way, prioritization of resources depending on what comes first at the point of time. But basically speaking, how do we address the question of poverty and inequality is equally important when we talk about climate action as well as the addressing the COVID challenge.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and maybe let me invite Sue to actually also give a short comment on that. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you. Just a very short comment. As I said when I was talking earlier, we've been given ample notice of the climate change crisis. We know what we've got to do. We know how we've got to respond. COVID, a bit more of a shock. We experience life in a very different way, local areas, strengths and weaknesses. But actually, the solutions are not in conflict at all. And ideas that are coming forward, like the 20-minute city, are very much about tackling both of those.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, basically, so we have very nicely jumped directly to the question number 3, so which is very nice. And actually, this question number 3 is associated with the issue how the new cities can be shaped in practice. What are we missing to make them the reality? And Martin touched on that a little bit in his speech, saying that cities without planners are like countries without, or sorry, like hospitals without doctors. Unfortunately, we know that actually this is possible, unfortunately. But Martin, what would be your thoughts about the future of cities in this case?
Well, one of my many observations in working in cities around the world is that they want to build, and if it is roads or central business districts, and when, for instance, I'm in China, they always refer to, yeah, we want to become New York, or we want to match London or Paris. And then I tell them, then you also have to make big and beautiful parks. You also have to make big and beautiful museums. You also have to make big and beautiful public spaces. So climate change, COVID-19, whatever you name it, the post-oil city is driven, I believe, also by a very high quality public spaces with parks, water, etc., combined with musea, and an excellent public transport system. If you go to cities like Guangzhou, Shanghai, the public transport system is there, but the beautiful, the very beautiful parks are not there yet. The rivers are not very well accessible, etc. So if you want to build on healthy cities, post-oil cities, post-COVID cities, focus on the public space, and indeed the 20-minute city. Thank you.
Okay, and maybe a remark on that from the London perspective, Sue, and afterwards a remark from the Durban perspective, Hope. So Sue, you'll take the floor.
Another thing I pointed out is that planning, the decisions we take will outlast us, outlast our children and our children's children. And whether we get the new city right is actually something that will be judged only by future generations when they look back and say, what decisions did they take? So to me, whilst we've got lots of technical skills as planners and lots of knowledge there and how we think cities should be shaped for the future, it's really important to look at how people are actually going to use them in practice, because we all know that you get a gadget and you don't always use it as the manufacturer intended. Hence the importance of actually working with people and how they think things need to shape up.
Hope?
Yes, thanks, Piotr. I think that the cities of the future will look much different, because as we understand cities, they're kind of human being, different diseases. So as we are responding as urban planners, we're feeding different type of sicknesses within our cities. And the way they will look and the shape and the format, it will be very much different in response. So what I'm also expecting and looking forward is something which is more tailor-made, cities which respond to people's needs on that particular environment. Then that time, if we get to that, then I know we've made it.
Well, thank you so much, and let me again pass the floor to our to representatives of our co-hosts. maybe you can start with Raf this time, short comment on that, and then Ananta, the final short remark, please.
Thanks. What I would like to say is what is missing from our perspective is that we're seeing cities are doing very good things, sometimes in one area, like in public space, or working well with nature or digitization. But it doesn't happen very often that the city gets it right in an integrated way, that you have 3 or 4 different areas that come together at the same time. And if that happens, sometimes it doesn't last long. It lasts only for 1 cycle or maybe 2 political cycles. So I think what we're missing is continuity of effort, that the scale can only come when cities continue these efforts over a long time across generations, and that it happens not only in 1 or 2 cities in every country, but across the whole urban territory. I think that's what we're missing. Over.
Okay, Ananta?
I just wanted to say that, talking about China, for example, China consumes nearly half of world's cement production. Is that the way to go? Is that the way to sustainability? We have to really question the kind of material that we use, how cities are being built. There I lack the possible reverse osmosis of experience from developing countries, third world countries, coming to the north. So there should be more dialogue between global south and north, also in city planning and making cities sustainable, learning from traditional practices. That's where I think planners have a lot to do, not just copying what was done in New York, London, and Paris. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for all these insights. And in the end of the panel, I would like to actually invite Martin, our president, to maybe comment on everything which was mentioned here and basically what it means for ISOCARP, as we are to some extent at the turning point in our profession also, as you mentioned, and also as in the keynote presentations and the opening remarks, as this was mentioned. But what would be the lessons for ISOCARP from this post-oil concept and from the post-COVID city? I mean, how shall we plan? Martin, your thoughts on that? Unmute yourself, please.
Yeah. Piotr, thank you for your question. But we have a huge Congress still ahead of us. So I think it's too early to draw a conclusion on that. For me personally, I'm very much looking forward to the other sessions and paper presentations, and I do not want to jump into conclusions yet. I strongly believe, but then I'm repeating myself, that we as urban planning professionals or academics or those who work at cities should join their forces much more diligently. The unique contributions from our members to the society. We are not. We have say 1/4 is working in the city, 1/4 is working at academia, 1/4 are working at consultancies, and the other 1/4 is also very much important. These are the young planning professionals. So we're opening up. We have. With our, say, 700, 800 members, we are represented in 90 countries, which is quite an achievement, I would say, not only of the present board, but also of the previous boards. And that interchange, that exchange of knowledge and experience is so valuable. In my introduction video, you saw I introduced a little bit where I'm working now, rebuilding a city into a post-gas city, and you have no idea how much the influence of previous ISOCARP congresses and workshops that I participated in, from from Perm in Russia, from Durban in South Africa, from Guangzhou in China, you name it. This has an enormous impact on my work in Delcel. All these experiences, I'm working on it right there, and that is the very much importance of the ISOCARP network. we as ISOCARP cannot change the world, but we as ISOCARP, we can have quite some influence and quite some, we may change some minds of colleagues and of city developers. And I think that is our role. But working on a permanent education and transition of the planning profession, that's very, very valuable to me. And 10 years ago it was the creative cities. Now we're talking about the postcard city. In a few years we will be talking about the healthy cities. These are all windows towards the same very complex profession we have.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Piotr.
Actually, I have to say that this is exactly what I wanted, which means a kind of warm up for the rest of the Congress, and basically a hint that we need each and every one of you to stay with us for the entire time of the entire Congress, because there will be numerous answers and numerous hints hidden here and there. So thank you very much, thank you very much, Martin, for that. And also I'd like to thank each and every one of the panelists. It was a short panel, but I think we had a good chance to present our opinions and points of view. But also this is a message for all the Congress participants that if you want to talk directly to the panelists, or if you want to exchange more thoughts on that, there will be a chance after we finish the session on the GovTown, we can actually approach each and every one of the panelists directly and speak either face-to-face or in groups. We will say a little bit about that in a few minutes, but at this stage, let me thank you for your interventions.
Thank you very much, Piotr, and of course, the panelists for constructive comments. What I find interesting was the alignment of thinking across the panel members. We'll now have to move to our last item, which is going to be the closing remarks, and is going to be delivered by the Secretary General of ISOCARP, Frank de Haan. Over to you, Frank.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you all. I hope you can see my screen.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah. Not yet.
Share. Aha, yes, share.
Yes.
You can see it, right?
No, not yet.
Share.
Go to share screen.
Oh, I cannot share.
Are you the host?
Okay, maybe we can ask Nian or Anna to help with the slides.
I don't think it's making him host. I think they have to make him the host.
Frank, you are co-host. Please just press the share screen button, and then you need to choose your screen and then accept.
Share screen.
That. Okay.
Yes, we see it.
Now you see it. Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the patience. Yes. All right. Yes, this is I would say a World Town Planning Day as never before. We know, of course, the main reason, but also the fact that we can do this today. This will be a World Planning Congress as never before. I personally would have preferred to be in a real place to celebrate this day, hugging and shaking hands, feeling the vibes of being together. I guess many of you will feel the same way. However, thanks to this horrible pandemic disease, we have maybe a once in a generation, if not longer, opportunity to change our human behavior and impact on the blue planet for the better, to plan the world we can sustain. Today's speakers are giving the call for change a voice that speaks many different languages and shows different phases, but altogether calls for unity of action in this decade of action to implement the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, and turn the destructive tide of global warming and loss of diversity. Yes. In his closing remarks, ISOCARP President Martin Dubbeling explored the contours of urban green deals championed by urban and regional planners. And in his closing remarks, he also stressed the need to constantly reinvent our profession. Reza Pourvaziry, chair of Urban Economy Forum, called for stronger collaboration between planners and economic stakeholders. Maimunah Sharif, executive director of UN Habitat and Under Secretary General of the United Nations, advocated a right-based planning approach and advanced application of the international guidelines on urban and territorial planning. Both Urban Economy Forum and UN Habitat will remain our co-hosting partners through the 3-month-long virtual Congress, and I'd like to thank them wholeheartedly for their commitment and endurance. Sue Mans, RTPI president of the Royal Town Planning Institute, and also representing the Global Planners Network, calls for more political and financial recognition of urban and territorial planning, as well worldwide planning capacity building. We could not wish us a better messenger of Global Planners Network's World Town Planning Day statement, co-drafted by RTPI and ISOCARP, and unanimously ratified by all GPN members in its recent meeting on 5 November. The statement will be available on our virtual meeting place very soon. From the engaging panel discussion led by our General Rapporteur, Piotr Lorens, I present you some key takeaways. Ananta Krishnan, Secretary General of Urban Economy Forum, addressed the deepening inequalities that we have to address as planners, including housing for all, and using, to paraphrase a bit myself, using the cracks in the broken system to sow the seeds of change. Raf Tuts, Director Global Solutions Division of UN Habitat, calls for new collaborative planning between of national and local level, for innovative regional planning for blue-green networks, for compact inclusive neighborhoods, and last but not least for continuity of integrated planning efforts at the city or city regional level. And then last but not least, Hope Magidimisha from University of KwaZulu-Natal and our co-general rapporteur, we need to do better as planners to address the outfall of this COVID-19 crisis. And this is an opportunity not to be wasted. So I would say this concludes the very first day of a long virtual journey that will end on 4 February next year. However, you should not leave without visiting our virtual meeting place on Gather Town. And finally, once more, happy World Town Planning Day. Thank you, and back over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Frank. I mean, as they say in China, but probably not only in China, every journey starts with the first steps, and this is exactly what we did today. So thank you very much for your closing remarks. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of the speakers and presenters and panelists who actually took their time and chance to actually participate in our event. And now we are officially closing day 1, but this is still time to get together. As you know, every Congress is important regarding the plenary sessions and panel discussions, but as Frank mentioned, it's even more important to meet in person. So to my great surprise, we actually found out that there is a software which helps us in dealing with these issues, and this is called GovernTown. During the dry runs, someone of us dubbed it as the SimCity for the Congress version, so to speak. So you are more than welcome to log into the GovernTown right now and actually see how it works and how we can interfere, how we can discuss person to person in groups and so on. I think we have like more or less an hour for that. So I would like to invite each and every one of the Congress participants to go there. Also, I'm very much like to encourage all the Congress team members to be part of that. So please log into the GovAtown. And finally, I would like to say thank you and hope.
Thank you very much, Frank, for warm closing remarks. I'm just wondering, were you typing as we were talking? Everyone is talking and you're typing. No, that's a very good skill that you have. So I would just want to say from my side, Durban is very warm here. I think I need to have some cup of coffee now. And I will see all of you tomorrow. I'll also meet, of course, at the GovAtown. And happy World Town Planning Day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. But before we go, there is an idea to make a Congress group picture. This time we will make it digitally, of course, I mean, from the comfort of our homes or offices. So please turn on your camera for the group picture, and let me pass the floor to Nian, who will be guiding us through this complicated process of taking the group picture. But please turn on your cameras. Nian?
Yes, everyone, please turn on your cameras briefly, and my colleague Anna is going to make a photo on the count of 3. So if you are all turned on now, let me just count 3, 2, 1, smile.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you later at GovAtown, and we'll see you tomorrow at 1:30 Central European Time.